Welcome, replay viewers. This is Loretta Love Huff, the Dream Leader for Business, and today's scope is about starting a business. So I just finished teaching a 4-month class on entrepreneurship, and I had some fabulous students. Today was their final presentation, and they had to talk about how they were going to run their business. And none of them, well, actually one of them did have a business before she got here. One of them was working for a business, and one of them had an idea but hadn't really done very much about it. So as we were reviewing the course, I just wanted to share with you some of the things that are required for getting a business started. So you might be thinking, I'd love to start a business, but you have no idea how to make that happen. So years ago, when I first started my consulting company, one of the things I did was interim HR consulting work, because I'd spent a lot of my career in human resources, and so I would work for sometimes different companies. After I left corporate America and I was working for myself, I would do kind of interim assignments as the HR manager or the HR director. And I was doing this for one company that was a software company. They were based, I think, in Germany. I don't remember exactly where, but it was a European company. The U.S. operation was based in the Silicon Valley, where I was living at the time. And the U.S. Manager kind of got to know me as I was being his HR person and said, you seem to have a really good business sense. And the company that he was running sold software to small business owners. And the software was pretty complex. I forget what it did, but it helped them run their business better. And so the software was kind of complex, and few of the business owners had enough technical knowledge to, hi, Christopher. Welcome, thanks for joining us. So the people who were using the software weren't technically competent enough to actually develop the software. So this company's business model was find technologists who would go in and interview the business owners and then design or customize the software to meet the business owner's needs. So mostly the people who were these contractors or the consultants were IT people who had left corporate America but had never run a business. And being an employee is very different than being a business owner. So he said, you've got a really good business sense. I would love it if you could put together a course that would help people, first off, understand if they should be a business owner, and then second off, what they needed to do if they decided that they did want to do that. Hey, welcome, Andron. Welcome. Thanks for being here. So we're talking about starting a business, and he asked me to put together this program, which I did online years ago. And now I'm teaching entrepreneurship classes in addition to the coaching. So I'm a business coach and an executive coach, and I work with people who are either in business or wanting to start a business, get their business off the ground or grow it to a place where they're happy and satisfied with how the business is going. I also work with corporate executives and corporate professionals to help them get the visibility and credibility that they need to move up the corporate ladder. And those people who have moved up, I help them lead their teams more effectively so that they're happy and the teams are happy and they're functional and great things are getting done. So today's scope is about starting a business. So as I said a little earlier, I've been teaching this 4-month class. Today was the final presentation. I was so proud of the students because I'll tell you at the beginning of it, one of them was like, why do I have to know all this? And do I really have to know the numbers and understand accounting? And they were just in a variety of spaces. And so today, seeing them present their idea with their financials, hey, welcome to the call, to the scope. I'm just very proud. I told them I was almost like in tears. I was so proud of them. Anyway, so here are the things that I wanted to share. Thank you so much. I love that, Queen. Oh, good. More hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And invite your friends because this is going to be a really great scope. If they're thinking about starting a business, they're going to want to know some of the things I have to share here today. Hi, it's Brian. Welcome. So the first thing is you have to have identified a problem that needs to be solved. Some people go into business because they think, I want to do something, I want to fix something, and that's good because you do need to have kind of that passion and that here's what I think I can do. But you want to make sure there's a problem in the marketplace and it's not just some great idea that you had. So the first step I would say would be identifying what's the problem you want to solve. So when I first started my business, it was an HR consulting role because I'd spent a lot of time in HR, and I had to. So the problem that I was solving was there are a lot of small companies in the Silicon Valley who don't have enough people to have an HR department, but they need somebody who has good HR expertise to help them deal with, the recruiting and the benefits and the culture and the management. And so the problem was small companies don't have enough resources maybe to hire a full-time HR person, so I could be that person. And I did that for a while. I'm doing a very different business right now, so now my business is working with small business owners who are trying to grow. So now the problem is people go into business and they don't know how to do marketing, and so they can't get their company off the ground or get it off as quickly or as profitably as they'd like to. So anyway, for you, the first tip is know what the problem is. Be able to articulate it, and to know that there are enough people with that problem that it's going to be feasible for you to go in business about it. So know what the problem is, and be able to identify then how you specifically are prepared for solving this problem. So with my HR consulting, I was prepared because I had worked at a lot of great companies like Sega and Apple and DreamWorks and Sears and Kraft. I'd worked a lot of places in a variety of HR capacities. And so I could bring all that expertise into the small company that didn't have anyone there because they were busy running their business. So know how you can help. So now my expertise, hi, welcome. Now my expertise is in helping small business owners start their business and market them effectively so that they can be profitable and have a lifestyle that they really enjoy and they're not sweating it. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you're going to be sweating things from time to time. That's just kind of the way it is. But if you've got a plan for how you're going to grow, then that makes it a little less nerve-wracking. So figure out what's the problem. That's step number one. The second one is, knowing just what I was talking about, how you specifically are able to help the people who you want to help. So what's your expertise? What's your skill set? Do you have what it takes? I'll tell you, being a business owner is really different than being a, welcome San Roz. So being a business owner is very different than being an employee. And so you need to have the right mindset. There might not be at the beginning a steady paycheck coming in. You're going to be paying for your own benefits. So you're going to be your own boss. One of the things I say when I'm speaking to business owners is there's good news and bad news about being a business owner. So the good news is you ain't got no stinking boss, right? That's really freeing for a lot of people. But the bad news is you ain't got no stinking boss. So, there's nobody holding you accountable for running your business on a profitable level. So you've got customers who will be holding, hey, welcome back. So you have customers who are holding you accountable for delivering whatever it is that your promise is, but they're not holding you accountable for growing your business. And so, you need to kind of manage yourself, set your own goals, make sure. Latvia, wow, awesome. So it must be nighttime over there. Thanks for joining us. So you need to know what problem you're solving, how you're specifically going to help. And then the next thing is identifying that there's a market. So there might be a problem, but it might not be a big enough problem for people to actually do something about. So you want to know that there is a market. So that's where kind of the research comes in. I know a lot of people kind of hate doing research, but there are business sites that you can actually get if you have a library card in most places. Welcome, DDT. So you can get research from libraries, or there are databases. The government produces a lot of information. The Census Bureau has a survey, so you can find out how many people in your area. You're welcome. If you are looking to have a local business, you can find out how many people are in the area that you are in that you think you might want to serve. So doing a little research was actually a really great idea. A lot of people skip over that part, but it's still good to know that there's a viable market. Hello, I can't read that, baby. Polly, you can? Not quite sure what you mean by that, but hello. So let's see, how can you help? So what skills do you have? What problem are you solving? Is there a market? Is there enough out there for me to make a living at this? So then the next thing is understanding who your customer is. And there are a couple of different ways to think about this. One of them is, what's my target market? And I know people resist finding or defining a target market that they want to work in, because they think that if I pick a narrow market, then I'm cutting out all this other potential revenue. But the thing about picking a market is that when you pick a lane, people often call it, you pick a lane and you work in that lane, you can get well known in that lane. You'll become an expert in that lane. People will know you in that lane. If you do good work, you'll have a great reputation in that lane. And so it's actually easier to make more money when you're the expert. Welcome everyone. It's easier to make money when you're in a lane than it is if you're trying to serve everybody. So you want to know who your customers are. Even if you're selling retail, each of the retail chains have a market and they kind of know who they're selling to. So Walmart's got a grocery store, they know who they're selling to. Fry's market knows who their market is and they know what they're selling to. There's another store here and I can't think of the name of it now, but it's kind of an upscale grocery store. Same things, maybe some different brands, but they know who their market is. And when you know who your market is, you can speak their language, you can talk about their specific problems, you can offer them solutions that they want. If you're trying to sell to everybody, it's going to be diluted. Your marketing's not going to be effective because you're trying to cover everybody. And that's just, not how people buy. They want to know that you understand them and their world. Thank you for the hearts, I appreciate that. That you are specializing in the problems that they're having because they want to work, and think about it, you want to work with a specialist. You don't want to work with somebody who does everything, jack of all trades. If you've got a serious issue, you want somebody who's an expert in that issue helping you. So thanks for joining us, Eddie. So we're on tip number 4. So there are different aspects to this. So knowing who your target market is. So your target market's going to be, kind of a pool of people. So it might be, women from 35 to 55, or women from 18 to 30, or men from 25 to 40. So your target market's going to be kind of demographic information, what I was just saying. Some gender, their age, where they live, if they're in a certain geography or a certain zip code, or they have certain education level or income. So demographics, and then there's the psychographics. So what are they thinking? Your ideal client or your target market, who you're aiming for. Are they liberal in their thoughts? Are they into politics? Are they conservatives? Are they religious or philosophical or atheist? Are they warm and friendly? Are they spiritual? Are they tough people? So you want to think about both like researchable things. Thank you for the chocolate hearts. So if they're demographic information, you can research how many people live in this zip code, who are this age, who have a mortgage of this amount, or they own their home, or they have kids in school. You can research that, how many people are in that. But you also want to know, what are they thinking about? What is their life like? What's their lifestyle? Do they love to travel? Do they hate to travel? So you want to know what, what they're like. Because when you understand them and you understand the world that they live in, then you can position what it is that you have to offer so that it appeals to them and their problems and their desires and their goals and their needs. So who's your market? How do I fit in? So the other one is then managing the money. And I think this is one that's really difficult. Welcome, Jay. So I'm Loretta. Let me introduce myself again. Loretta Love Huff. I'm the Dream Leader for Business. I help people and teams exceed their dreams. I work with entrepreneurs, hi there, to help them launch or grow their businesses. I work with corporate professionals to help them move up the corporate ladder and to lead their teams if they have teams and be more effective there. So today's scope is about starting a business, and I've gone through a number of things that you need to do to get started. So if you're just joining us, watch the replay and get kind of caught up. So now we're talking about what the problem is. So let me go back. So I was talking about this guy who asked me to put together a program for the consultants that his company was using to sell their software. And so one of the things was knowing who you are and whether or not you would be a good entrepreneur versus a great employee. Because as I said earlier, they're really different kinds of personalities. So you want to know what your skills are, how you're going to solve that, and some of your skills are going to need to be business management. It's not just the skill that you have that's taking you into business. You need to have good management skills. So if you don't have business management skills, you'll want to take some classes or read some good books or hire a coach, talk to someone, go to SCORE. There are lots of resources that you can use to learn about running your business. So you need to manage the money. A lot of people resist this. They don't want to deal with the books, unless they love numbers and math. But you need to know where your money's coming from. You need to know where your money is going. I remember watching Oprah a long time ago, and one of the things that she said about her business, and she's mega, mega, mega rich, right? But she signs every one of her checks. Every check that goes out from her company, she signs it. So she knows exactly where her money is going. I think a lot of people, and particularly celebrities and maybe even sports stars, really don't want to deal with the money, and so they have somebody else take care of that. But when you do that, you're putting yourself at risk for not managing, one of the most critical aspects of your business, which is being profitable. If you have no idea where your money is going, you're not really running your business. So you need to know that. So we're talking about getting started. So you need to know who your customer is, what their hopes are, what their dreams are. You need to manage the money. So in my class, we started off talking about finances. None of the students in this class had actually taken any accounting classes. So when I started talking about financial statements and income statements and balance sheets, they were totally lost. So I had to kind of break it down for them to explain and try to relate it to their life as an individual. Hi, Carl. Hey, welcome. So you need to know where your money's going. And at the beginning, you want to make some projections about here's how much I think I can make. And that's going to be a guess, because at the beginning, you're not going to know. But you can say, I think if I had, this many customers and this many new customers every month, and they're buying on average this much money, then here's how much I should have collected by the end of the year. That's a really rough approximation, but you need to kind of go through this exercise. How many customers am I going to have? Thank you for the heart, appreciate that. How much is each of them going to give me every day, month, week, year? How much am I going to have to spend to run the business? So you need to take a step back and say, I'm going to need to have a telephone. I'm going to need to maybe have an office. I'm going to need to have supplies. I'm going to need to have a computer and email accounts and some marketing money and maybe some employees or some contractors. So you want to guess, not guess, but kind of guess how much is it going to cost me to start the business and how much is it going to cost me to run the business. So again, that's, for a lot of people, dealing with the numbers like that is not fun, but it's very necessary, because if you don't know where your money's coming and going, you're not managing it, you're missing out on an opportunity to be as profitable as you could be, or to even be able to stay in business. If you really are not paying attention, you could be out of business pretty quickly because you spent way more than you thought you were going to bring in, and not a good sign. So you have to know what the money is going to be by projecting, kind of estimating at the beginning until you get some track history and you can say, hey, welcome, kill your deaf. So you need to manage your money. So the next thing is getting customers. How are you going to get customers? And even before you get customers, you want to have some idea of how you're going to get them. Are you going to go network and meet people and introduce yourself? But here's the thing, if you go networking, you don't want to just be selling things at the networking meetings. And there are networking meetings that you could go to here in Phoenix. You could be networking at breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hour, all day, every day. My name is Loretta. So I am Loretta Love Huff, the Dream Leader for Business. I'm a business coach and an executive coach, and I help people make more money, have more fun in life, have profitable businesses and profitable careers. So you need to know, where was I? Oh, getting customers. How are you going to get customers? Where are these networking meetings? They're everywhere. Where are you? Are you in Phoenix? If you're in Phoenix, you could actually go on, kind of no matter where you are, you could go online to Google or Yahoo. You're in Goodyear, oh my goodness. So there's an organization called networkingphoenix.com, and it is primarily a calendar of networking events all across the valley. So if you're in Phoenix, go to networkingphoenix.com. You will find a lot of more networking groups than you'll ever be able to go to. But a lot of the organizations list their events on the calendars there. And so while Networking Phoenix is mostly here in Phoenix, I think she's starting to go around the country. So you might try networking whatever city you're in.com, and maybe there's another location there. But if you don't have that particular platform, just search on Google for networking events in whatever city you're in. Networking events Chandler, networking events Detroit, networking events Washington, D.C., and probably a lot of them will come up. So you can go there and meet other people, but the thing I will caution you to do is just meet other people. Don't try to sell your things right there. That's the reason I don't actually go to a lot of networking events, because people are always trying to sell me. And I'm going there, to meet maybe referral partners or to, just kind of stay connected. And I'm prospecting in the back of my mind, but it's way more in the back of my mind than, hey, you should hire me as your coach. I'm never coming across like that. And some people do that, so it's really kind of annoying. So if you are going to network, just go there looking for maybe people that you could, work together in building your businesses, joining, creating some joint ventures or some alliances, and don't try to sell your services to people that you just meet, because that's just downright annoying. Don't do that. Don't be that networker. But it is a good place to meet a lot of people and find out what's happening. Be prepared, have an elevator pitch, be able to say to people, here's what it is that I do, but don't expect them to hire you right there on the spot, because they'll start avoiding you if they know that that's what you're there for all the time. So to manage the money was the last one. You need to know how you're going to get customers. So is it networking? Are you going to do Facebook ads? Are you going to build referral partners? Are you going to join a referral group? A lot of the chambers of commerce have, thank you for the heart, have leads groups, they call them. So you have to join the chamber, but then you can get into a smaller group of people that are, it's an industry-specific group. And by that I mean, if there are 10 of you there, each of you is in a different industry. So there might be a life and health and disability insurance agent, there might be a realtor, there might be a chiropractor, but there's only going to be one of each of those. So that way you guys meet, you talk, every week, often, about what's happening and who you're looking to meet, and then their job is to introduce you to people who might need you. So it's a little bit better when somebody else is introducing you than if you're, hi Jay, welcome, than if you're out there pitching yourself. So you're pitching somebody else, and that's a little bit more palatable to people. So you can be in a networking group, you can join a referral group. I'm in one called LaTip. I've been in it for, I think it's going to be 10 years this fall. It's been very profitable for me. There's another group called Business Networking International, or BNI, and both of these groups have locations all around the country and maybe even outside the country. So networking is one strategy. You might decide you're going to do trade shows, you might do public speaking. That's actually how I built my business, was by speaking at a lot of the local chambers here and talking about marketing strategies, and then people deciding, hello, hi there, thanks for being here. People deciding that, I like her style, I'd like to learn a little bit more, I'd like to work with her, I'd like to buy some of her products. So when you are, thank you for the heart, appreciate that. So you might do speaking. You might decide to write a blog and get more traffic to your blog. You might have a YouTube channel. So there are a lot of different ways that you want to do marketing, but you want to focus your marketing efforts so that you're getting your message in front of the people who are most likely to buy your services. So that means you actually know who your ideal clients are and where they're hanging out. Are they on YouTube? Are they on Google+? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Pinterest? Because each of those platforms has a slightly different kind of demographic there. And if you know who you're looking for, you can focus your efforts where you think your target market is hanging out, and that'll make your marketing that much more effective. So you need to market. So the next one, so we talked about managing the money and getting customers. Oh, and then the other aspect of marketing is just really getting the word out so that people know who you are. So you've probably heard the phrase, and so if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and I'll try to respond to those. People do business with people that they what? I'm going to ask you. So what's the end of that phrase? People do business with people that they, who knows? No, yep, that's right. What's the other one? So no is one of them. So if people don't know who you are, they can't do business. Trust is the other one. That's right. I owe a DBA business for music. Oh, great. Okay. So it's know, like, and trust. So you've probably heard this. So people do business with people that they know, people that they like, people that they trust. And in order to have those three things, you need three other things. You need to be doing three things. So one is you need to be getting visible in front of your target market so that so that they know who you are. Because if people don't know that you exist, you are not going to get any business. They need to like you, especially if you're in a service business. If you're selling cars and they've got a one-time transaction, they might not need to like you too much because they're just going in to, for that one transaction. But if you're in a service business and they're going to be working with you over time, they're going to want to enjoy the time that they're spending with you at some level. So marketing can get you visible. Being liked is more about your personal interaction with them. So that might come across while you're networking or just in your interactions with them. And then trusting, how to build trust is by gaining more credibility. So having a brand that looks professional, being professional yourself, having other people say good things about you does a lot for your credibility because if you're talking about how good you are, people will discount that. So you get visible. Yeah, so get visible, get people to like you, get people to trust you. And trust comes from a little bit over time, but also a bit about how you behave in the marketplace, how you interact with people, how credible you seem, how if you seem like somebody who knows what they're talking about. So if you say that you're good at marketing and yet there are lots of mistakes in your writing or your brand looks like everybody else, people aren't going to think that you can help them very much. So the know, like, and trust factor requires visibility, credibility, and a sense of connection. So understanding who people are, what makes them tick, why they might be interested in being connected with you. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. So then getting customers, that's the other part. So sales is different than marketing. Marketing is really just getting visible, establishing your brand, letting people know what you do and how you do it. Sales is getting people to hand over money. So how do you do that? That's a whole different process. So I used to sell jewelry at art and wine festivals, and that was pretty easy. So I didn't really even have to do that much marketing. I did marketing. I would send out postcards to my previous clients to let them know that I was going to be at these particular art and wine festivals, some of the jewelry that I made. But that's kind of all the marketing I did. I kind of let the art and wine festivals take care of most of the marketing, but I did let my customers know where I was going to be at any point over the summer. But sales happen when somebody's sitting in front of you or somebody's on your website or somebody's on the telephone with you and they say, yes, I'd like to buy X, Y, and Z, and they give you money. So there are different strategies for how do you get somebody from knowing and liking you and trusting you to saying, here's my check or here's my credit card. So you need to have strategies for that. So that might be, having a conversation with them one-on-one. So you go meet somebody at a networking meeting, you decide, this person might be somebody I could help. They decide maybe this is somebody that could help me, and you set up a different conversation, and you have the conversation later, offside, to talk about specifically what they're dealing with and how you might be able to help them. I do not speak Russian. I've seen the language. I think I might have taken a class, so I've kind of seen what the characters are like, but I don't speak Russian. I speak a little bit of Spanish, and I used to speak a little bit of French, but that was quite a long time ago. Anyway, so sales. So you need to be able to sell things. So if you're not able to sell, you won't be in business very long. You could hire other people to do that, and that's one of the things we talked about in our class, is you could hire people, but that's often not the best strategy because you need to be kind of the best salesman for your company. And then once you get really good, you can talk about expanding your company by bringing on salespeople, but I wouldn't just initially outsource that process to somebody else. So getting customers, doing sales, and then here's the other thing. So there are a lot of legal requirements, and that's one of the things I heard from my students today. So, so if you listen to the replay, you'll hear I just finished a 4-month class teaching it to some students, and what they said today about what they found most helpful was all like learning all of the different elements that are required. So I'm walking you through some of them, but one of them is also kind of a legal aspect. So you need to know what's required to do business in the city and state that you live in. And each city has kind of its own regulations and requirements, and maybe licensing requirements and getting approval from the city to do business where you are. So you need to know where you're working, what the Commerce Department. So on most big cities' websites, there's a link that says doing business in Phoenix. And it will direct you to the resources that you need to do to get started legitimately, legally, to do business in the city. So one of the things that's required, although it's probably not going to be on the cities, is forming a business. So you could have several different forms. You could start a business as a sole proprietorship, which just means I'm just going to hang the shingles and start my business under my name. So that's easy. There's not really a lot of legal hoops that you have to go through. But the downside of being a sole proprietorship is, let's say you're in business, you've been in business for a while, then one of your customers doesn't like you, or something happens, or something goes awry, or you don't do the right thing, and they sue you. So if you have a sole proprietorship, anything that you own is fair game to be attached in their lawsuit. So you own a home, you own a car, you own a boat, you have a savings account. If you own a sole proprietorship, that means you and the business are kind of the same legal entity, and they sue you, they've got access to everything else that you own. So while it's very easy to get started as a sole proprietorship, you probably don't want to do that. My dad had a sole proprietorship, but this, he owned actually a drugstore and a coin-operated laundromat. But this was, back in the 50s and 60s and maybe he actually died in 69, so the 50s and 60s he owned those businesses. The country wasn't quite so sue-happy back then. Like, there were some lawsuits, but not like there are now. So now it's really important for you to have a separation between you and your business. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to start a limited liability company. So it's limited liability company. And that actually sets up the business as its own separate entity. So you have your own bank accounts for the business, and you have your personal bank accounts. You have an entity, like kind of a person, as that business. You register your name, you turn in taxes for that entity, you file taxes for that entity, you get licenses for that entity. But the beauty of that, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, it does cost something, and if you go to your state Commerce Department, it will tell you what you need to do to get started. So you have to fill out some forms and advertise and say that you're going into business. But limited liability is actually how a lot of small businesses get started, because it separates the business assets from your assets. So you have an LLC and somebody sues the company, then your assets, as long as you have kept them separate and you're not intermingling your money, you have a separate bank account for the business, an account for you, and you run all of your business transactions through the business account, not your personal account, then you're validating as an artist. You could use your name for business. You could. I would still say, there's not a lot of risk for an artist, so you might just do a sole proprietorship and do that. But it's still kind of a good idea to have it's not likely that your art is going to cause anybody to sue you. So you might be safe being a sole proprietorship. And even if you have an LLC, you could name the LLC your name. And if you're an artist and you're kind of presenting yourself as the brand, then doing business, as your name is probably a good idea. But if you're wanting some protection, you need to have a company that's formed, like an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp. So if you're just starting a business, you probably don't need a C Corp, because that means you're going to be selling shares. You might be traded publicly on the market later on, and it's more expensive and way more complex. But talk to an accountant. So that would be my recommendation. If you're thinking about starting a business, find an accountant or an attorney and talk to them about kind of how you see the business operating, and they will recommend what form of business to go into. You can also go for like free advice. There's an organization called SCORE. It used to be the Society Core Retired Executives, I forget, and they've stopped calling it that. What about getting 1099 miscellaneous? You should, let's see, let me read that, and form an LLC to be able to report. You can get the 1099 as, you could still be a 1099 with your name. So you could be an individual filing 1099 forms. So that's a little bit separate. I use 1099s for some of the consulting that I do for organizations because they do want to have that. So that just means that you are now paying your own payroll taxes. So when they pay you a fee for your art, then you are required to go pay payroll taxes to the government, even though you're not taking a salary. You still owe taxes to the government for the money that you make. So the 1099 is how the IRS keeps track of the money that you've received for your business activities, whether it's under your name or your company's name, because the people, and for an artist, it really that's kind of easy. It kind of depends on how much your art is worth, because I think the cutoff is like $600. So if any company or person pays you more than $600, then they're probably going to deduct it on their taxes. They're going to ask you for a 1099. What if you're a Lyft driver? There's a little bit of controversy about that because you're kind of quasi-employees and independent contractors. And I was reading an article just a couple of weeks ago. I would say go online and look that up because it's a little bit, there's a debate about whether or not you're really independent contractors and responsible for your own taxes, or if you are you probably should pay taxes because if the IRS comes after you and you haven't paid them for years, then you're going to have to do that. But go back to the Lyft question. So there's some debate about whether you're an employee or an independent contractor, and I'm not sure they've actually totally resolved that yet. But you want to pay attention. And again, do some Google research or Yahoo research or whatever search engine you use to find out, because somebody needs to be paying the payroll taxes. So if you think about when you're a job and you earned a certain amount of money and yet they took out all these deductions and there was Social Security and unemployment insurance, somebody's got to be paying that. And it's either should be you paying it or it could be the company. So you want to and you need to keep track of your business expenses. Right, and I would keep them separate from your own personal expenses and be able to document that and separate it, because if the IRS comes after you, they're going to ask you for evidence. So I'm not sure what you mean about car washes. Oh, like if you get your car washed or gas, right? I actually have an app on my phone because I used to keep a mileage log in my car. Every time I would get in the car and I was on a business trip, I would write down the starting mileage that day and the ending mileage that day, and then how many miles I drove. So at the end of the year, I could go through and kind of add it all up. So I had to do it manually for a long time. The app is called something like Get My Mileage or My Mileage. It's on my phone, so I can't look at it right now. But it's something about mileage, and it will track it. Actually, like if you have your phone with you in the car, it recognizes. It's got a GPS thing on it, obviously, so it can actually see and track every stop that you make. And then you can go through and say, okay, for this segment, that was a business trip, this was a personal trip, that was a business trip, and it actually allows you to do that. So they give you some period of time for free, and then it costs money, and they don't really tell you that because it looks like it's a free app. So I was a little bit annoyed with that. So, but it's a really good app, and I still use it. I paid for the upgrade so that I could continue doing it. So I kind of missed that comment about the studio. I'm sorry. If you want to type it again, I'll respond to it. So we're talking about sales, marketing, and the legal requirements. So if you're selling a product, and I don't know what your art is, if it's a painting. Let's say you're selling a painting that's kind of got a retail value and you should be charging sales tax. So you need to collect the sales tax at the sale and then send in the sales tax to the city and state every month or quarter, depending on where you are. Is buying studio time or buying a studio equipment a business expense? Absolutely. Yeah. It's like rent. Or, if you owned a facility, it would be your mortgage or your rent payment. So, yeah, that's absolutely deductible. But again, talk to an attorney, an accountant, because they can tell you the things that you can deduct. And so here's kind of an advanced strategy. So my company is an LLC, but I file my taxes as an S-Corp. So when I turn in, so if you just have an LLC, you can turn in your business income and expense with your personal income tax on a special form. But I file as an S Corp, and the reason I did that was because an accountant told me several years ago, as an S Corp, because it's kind of a bigger company, there are more tax deductions that you can take. So the rent, the things that you were talking about, thank you for the hearts, I appreciate that, Afton, welcome. So the more, you can take things more off of your taxes, and the more deductions you get from your income, then the lower your profits look, and therefore the lower your tax liability is going to be. So the more things you can write off, they say, it reduces your tax liability, and that's more money that you get to keep in your pocket. Each of the different forms of business have different tax liabilities, and I don't want to go into all of the differences, but let me just outline kind of what the different structures are. So you could be a sole proprietorship, you could have a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership. You could have a partnership, which requires that you have an agreement so that everybody's all clear about who's doing what and who's got what share of the revenue. You could have an S Corp, which is kind of like a corporate. They do teach this in school. This is what I was, so I actually started this afternoon because I'm just finishing up a 4-month class on entrepreneurship, and these are some of the things we talked about. So talk to an accountant or take a class, but there are different tax advantages and different legal opportunities and benefits of the different structures. So you want to know, and again, talk to an accountant or an attorney, like which structure is going to benefit you in the way that you see your business being run. And then the big companies that you see are generally C Corps, so they're corporations and the C Corps, so they're different tax codes. So you're probably not, if you're just starting a business, you're probably not going to start a C Corp. It'll be a sole proprietorship, limited liability company. Well, there's also something now called a B Corp, which is it's a business, it's a for-profit business, but it is providing social good. So it's kind of a combination of a nonprofit that's providing a service and a for-profit company. So, and they're not available everywhere. They're available in Arizona and a few other states. Every state doesn't have a B Corp. Where for those of you who are like wanting to do something that's really going to benefit the community, you could start with a B Corp, and there might be different tax advantages for a B Corp than a C Corp than an LLC. So again, I don't want to go through all the differences that there are, but there are differences, and you should take a class or hire an attorney, not hire an attorney, just do some research. You could probably find some of that online on your own, okay? So, but know what the legal requirements are. So in the city of Phoenix, you have to have a license to operate in the city of Phoenix. If you're in a certain industry, like a plumber or a bug exterminator, you need to have a license to handle chemicals and do things. If you're a contractor, you need to have another license, and all these things cost money. And so you need to find out, even if you're just a service, it depends on the service that you are. So as I said, look in the city that you're residing in or the state, and find the doing business in the city, and it'll tell you what industries require having a license and what kind of license you have to get. So one of the students in my class hand makes sausage, really good, yummy, tasty sausage. And so she has to have a food handler's license. She has to have, there's another license about using kind of raw meat, because they want to make sure that if you're doing business with the public, that you're doing it the right way, that you're meeting all the requirements, that you're handling, in her case, the food in the proper way, that you're keeping it refrigerated. So there are different licenses for different industries. So do some research for your industry and your city and state, and it'll tell you what's required legally to get there. So what else do I want to tell you about? Oh, so here's one of the best pieces of advice. When I started my jewelry business years ago, I went to a retail store. Do I talk about business and say, okay, talk to you later on? So you can reach me at Loretta Love Huff. So it's my handle for Periscope, Loretta Love Huff, and my email is Loretta Love Huff. So send me an email. I also, would be willing to do kind of a complimentary strategy session if you're thinking you might want to have a coach, and that would be tinyurl.com/talk to Loretta. So if you wanted to schedule some time to talk to me, it's tinyurl.com/talk to Loretta. So I was about to say something, and now I forgot what I was going to say. If anybody remembers what I was about to say, remind me. Otherwise, I'm going to go on to the next topic here. So sales and marketing, we talked about that. Oh, right. So I started this jewelry business, and I was buying most of my beads and supplies in jewelry stores. Thank you for the hearts. I think that's apt and appreciate that. So I was going to these stores, buying all my supplies, the little hooks that go on the earrings and the little metal things that make it look nice. And one of the women there said, I talked to a lot of mostly women who are making jewelry, and here's one of the mistakes that they make. She said, you sell your jewelry someplace at an art and wine festival, you collect all this money, you've charged sales tax, but then you end up spending it, right? Because all of it goes into your business account, and then you go and buy more supplies, and you sign up to, work at some more art and wine festivals, and it all costs money, and pretty soon the money's all gone, and you haven't paid your taxes yet. So the piece of advice that she gave me, great piece of advice, and I did it, is every time you sell something, even if it's like the whole day, because we were there for like 2 or 3 days at a time, every show you say, here's how much I sold, therefore here's how much tax I owe. So now it's 8 point some percent, I forget, 8.7% I think. So then you take 8% of all the money that you collected and say, that's how much sales tax I collected. And I'm going to put that in a savings account so that when I'm writing checks or using my credit card, I'm not eating into this money that's for not payroll taxes, sales tax, because I owe this to the city and state. So if you separate them even more, then when it comes time to file your taxes, the money's still sitting there and you haven't spent it buying more supplies. So that was like a brilliant piece of advice, and I did it, and it kept me out of trouble, because she said a lot of women would come in complaining because now the tax authorities are coming after them because they hadn't saved it and they weren't able to pay it, and now they're out of business because they couldn't pay their taxes. So don't do that. So if you are selling a product, and even some services, like a software service, they're starting to charge tax for that too. So you want to find out if you're required to collect and pay sales tax. If you are responsible, then put the money that you collect from your customers in you can use a tax prep service, but that's kind of after the fact. So I'm talking about having the money available to pay the taxes. But yes, you can use a tax prep service, and they will maybe keep track of that for you, but you want to have it ideally in a separate account so you can just not have to worry about whether it's there or not. Okay? So then, lots of legal requirements. Go to the city, to the state, to the county that you're in, and find out what's required in your town and follow their rules. And again, there's some of the free resources you can use are SCORE, maybe the Small Business Administration. There's something called the Small Business Development, I think it's Corporation, SBDC. They operate in a lot of areas as well. Do sales tax if I own a tax prep service for my services. I'm not sure about tax prep. So I would do some research if I were you online and see if I don't think there's tax on tax prep services. I think that's one of the services that's exempt. Many services are exempt, but not all of them. And I think tax prep is one. So I'm thinking about the woman who does my taxes, and I don't think she charges me tax. Graphic design, that's probably not taxable as well, but again, I would check to make sure, because I don't have them all memorized in my head. I just know about me. I don't do it. But when I sell books, I do collect sales tax. So find out, the whole point of this, what I've been teaching my students is go do some research. So I can tell you a lot of things, but you want to know specifically for your industry and your service and your location and your part of the country, what's required, because you want to do it by the books. So the next thing is, so now you're in business, you've got, business name, I didn't even talk about that, in Michigan. So the state of Michigan and probably the town that you live in, unless it's a tiny town, and even, small towns have commerce departments. So find out, from them what's really required. So who's on your team? So you want to think about Lansing. Okay, I would imagine Lansing, if it's the capital, they definitely have. So, and also the state of Michigan is going to have some requirements as well. So you might need to file your LLC papers if you're going to do an LLC with the state of Michigan, and then get a business operating permit. I don't know what Lansing or Michigan would call it, but an operating permit for Lansing, probably. But look on their websites. I'm sure they talk about that now. It's a big, it's a lot of the states are trying to support small business growth, and so they're making it, they're providing more readily available information for small businesses, so that they can find the information that they can need online rather than calling and having to, man telephone lines with people. So check the websites. It's probably really helpful. So now you're in business. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I've been in business. It'll be 16 years next couple of weeks from now. So I've learned a lot. I've taught a lot of other business owners. I've been teaching entrepreneurship classes here for a couple, 3, 4 years now. So I have learned a lot. I've read a lot of books and have worked with a lot of coaches myself. So now you're in business. You're making money. You know who your clients are. They're giving you money. You're keeping track of everything. So now maybe you're ready to expand. Here's another really good resource. One of the books, I teach at South Mountain Community College, which is in Phoenix, and a part of the Maricopa County Community College System, which is one of the largest community college systems in the country. And I'm in Phoenix, on the south side near Baseline Road and 24th Street. Right now, in my class, just wrapped up. So you go to Grand Canyon. Hey, one of my students who just graduated did a lot of work at Grand Canyon and came here to take some entrepreneurial classes. So I think that's a really good school there too. So now you're going to expand. Glendale, yep, I've been out to the campus. So now you're expanding. And the book that I was going to share with you is called The E-Myth Revisited. And E stands for entrepreneur, the entrepreneur myth revisited. So I won't talk a lot about the book, but it's really good. It's a great read. And who's the author? Michael Gerber, Gerber, like the baby food. I don't know if they're related. But he talks about, you know, kind of why we go into business, especially service businesses. So it's really geared toward service businesses. He has written a series of books and taking his philosophy into a variety of books. But it's called The E-Myth Revisited. It's excellent. Get a copy. He talks about, you know, why we go into business because we want to do something specific to make the world a better place. He uses an example of this woman who learned how to cook at her auntie, I think it was auntie's apron strings, and opened a bakery. But then found out she was like not just baking, she was the cashier, she was the accountant, she was the technology person, she was the floor sweeper, she was the inventory person, she was the delivery person, and she was overwhelmed. And so the book has some really great ideas on how to run your business so that it's not running you. And one of them is recognizing who's on your team and who you need on your team. So one of his exercises was to, you know, even if it's just you, to make an org chart. So I could do one really quickly here. So we've got you, the boss. Whoops, that's not working. So we got the CEO, and then we got all these functions here. So we got marketing and sales maybe together, and production, and what else do we have? Accounting and finance. So I'm not going to stay, too far away, but you can see there are all these different functions. So you need to identify what are all the different roles, and if you've been in a company, think about all the different departments that were there. So even if you're the person who's doing all those roles, you need to identify, well, what are the responsibilities of each of these jobs here? Because here's the advantage of it, and this is one of the things I did from the book that I thought was really helpful. I made an operations manual. So every time I did something that was in one of these roles, I would write it down because I found that I was having to remember what I had done a month ago for this particular activity. So it wasn't exactly a job description, it was actually a task list. Like, here's exactly how to do this thing. So for example, one of the things I did was I'd make videos. I still make videos, and now I can do them kind of on a lot of different appliances or cameras or machines. But at the beginning, it was kind of a hassle using, taking the movie and then putting it on my computer and editing it. So I started keeping an operations manual, and that was one of the pieces of advice that Michael Gerber did. So identify all the roles that are required in your business, even if you're doing all of them, and then document them, like step by step. What do you do to make the video? So, shoot the thing, get it onto your computer, open the editing software, here's how to clip it, like really detailed lists. But the beauty of that is, when you're ready to hire somebody, you can take this document you've created and give it to them and say, here, this is your job now. And that is such a freeing thought. But you have to have documented it in order to make that happen. So know what the different roles are in your business. And even if you're doing them all, identify what is required to get that done. And then when you're ready to hire somebody, figure out of the things that you're doing, what's the thing that causes you the most grief? Or what do you think somebody else could do better than you? Because, a lot of business owners think, well, I'm a perfectionist, I'm the best one who's going to do it. But if you hold on to that thought and you don't have team members, you're going to constrain your growth because there's only so much you can get done in a day. So I have a couple of, probably actually 3 different virtual people that I can assign things to, so that I'm not doing everything. And I could still probably delegate even more than I'm currently doing. But you want to start thinking of, if I'm going to grow, how am I going to build a team? What people do I need on the team? What skills do I need in the people that I have on the team? What kind of attitude, mindset do I want them to have? What soft skills do I need them to be, bubbly and personable? Or if they're just doing data entry, it doesn't really matter because they're not interacting with my customers. If they're a salesperson, are they skilled? You know what? Okay, so thank you for inviting followers. So it seems like I'm still connected. So I'm going to keep going here. Hopefully it's going to work. I know a phone call came in while I was talking. Hopefully that didn't shut you guys off. Anyway, so identify your team. Document as much as you can so that you can hand off some of these responsibilities to someone else so that you're not left doing everything else. And that's related to the next thing, which is operations. So knowing what's required to make it happen. It's not just about delivering the service. There's the scheduling, there's the making of it, there's the marketing, there's the sales, there's the accounting, there's the technology. There are a lot of different responsibilities in having the business run. So again, document all the responsibilities, document the skills that you need. Write down here, I need this kind of person with this kind of expertise for this kind of job. And then, heck, that person might just show up just because you've gotten really clear about the kind of help that you need. And the other thing is you want to think about, as you're growing, what kind of culture do I want to have? What's the feel of the business here, both internally and with our customers? So if you're the business owner, you get to decide. This is going to be, a hard driving, fast run operations. We don't really, I don't want to say this, we don't really care about people, but there's some businesses who are like that. They just want to deliver. Or are you going to be the kind of company that really cares about its customers, that gets to know your customers, that customizes a lot of things for your customers? So you as the business owner, you need to have a vision for, how do I see this company operating? Welcome. So I'm just about to wrap up, so make sure you watch the replay because I've gone through a lot of requirements for getting your business off the ground. So knowing what culture you want to have in your company, how you're going to treat your customers, how you're going to treat each other. Are you going to be an innovative company that allows your employees to take a lot of risks and make mistakes, but in the interest of making the company a better place? Or are you going to be the controlling kind of boss who says, no, you have to do it like this? So, they're each kind of useful, but you got to do it exactly like this is not really how I think really great businesses do right now. Right now, I think a lot of companies who are growing well are empowering their employees. They're setting guidelines and parameters. But they're giving the employees discretion to make decisions. So I don't know if you're familiar with Zappos, but they sell shoes. But they have a huge customer service department, and the employees are empowered to, if a customer calls and complains about something, the employees get to create a remedy for that customer, because they're all about maintaining customer satisfaction. And the CEO of the company, I forget his name, I think it's Shieh, but I forget how to say it, wants the people who are the closest in talking to the customers to make the customers happy. And he wants the employees to feel like they're in charge of the customers. And so that creates a whole lot of loyalty with the employees because they feel like they're a valuable part of the company. They're not just answering the telephones, right? So you probably talked to some customer service people that were just answering the telephones, but these guys are like, no, I want you to be happy customers. So whatever it takes, I'm empowered to make a remedy, whether it's, refunding your money, sending you a free pair of shoes. I can make this decision. And the employees love it, and the customers love them as well. So you have to, think through, how am I going to deliver this? Who's going to be doing all these jobs here? What am I going to require? What's the culture I want to create? And then how do I want to be? Do you know anything about logos or copying a logo, but in a different way? Yeah, I wouldn't copy a logo, because if they've trademarked that, you could be, liable for infringing on their copyright. So don't, look at different logos for ideas, but don't copy somebody else's logo. That would get you in a lot of trouble. And financial trouble as well, legal and financial trouble. So there are sources. You can go to like Fiverr, Fiverr.com. There are a lot of people who do graphics design there. And I know there's actually somebody who's in graphics design on the scope here. I don't know if they're still here, but somebody did say they were a graphic designer. So you can go to Fiverr. You can go to, there's another one where you actually kind of bid for, you say, here's what I'm looking for, and then different artists bid and say, hey, I can do that thing for this amount of money. And there's some other websites where you can go to hire that. Or you can go to a print shop. So some print stores have graphics designers there. I had a logo for one of my products designed by my printer, because he had a really good graphics guy there. So, so the culture, the future, and good, here's the other thing. So now it's becoming, I think, even more important for companies to be seen as good corporate citizens. Because so many companies have, they had the Exxon gas disaster, the oil spill, and Enron with their shady deals, and the financial services industry with their shady deals. So it's becoming more and more important, especially if you're targeting millennials who are very much concerned, I think, for doing good work, but doing like good service, good work, making the world a better place, kind of good work. So there's this whole thing called corporate responsibility. So being a good corporate citizen, making sure that you're treating your employees well, that you're operating well in the community, that you've got a good reputation in the community, that you're doing things, you're giving back to the community, you're supporting the local nonprofits. So that just makes you more appealing to people who might do business with you, because they know that you're actively involved in the community. You're not just there using the labor and paying them bad wages and not giving them good benefits, that you're there investing in the community. And so social responsibility is all about being invested in the communities in which you operate, and your customer base will appreciate that and will probably prefer to do business with you than for somebody who's doing something similar but not investing in the community. So that might be, donating to charities, participating in their events. There are a variety of different ways that you can do it. So that's another aspect for, it's kind of branding, it's kind of, creating some awareness, but in a good way, and not, paying for advertising, because people have a different thought about paying for advertising. Advertising is useful, but being a good corporate citizen and getting publicity on that is even better sometimes. And then the final thing is, you want to have an exit plan. So are you going to stay in business? Is your plan stay in business until I die and then the business dies? Is your plan, I'm going to stay in business, I'm going to get partners, I'm going to maybe incorporate later on, I'm going to go public? Is that your plan? Because there are different ways that you would operate your business if you're going to, just do the business yourself as a sole proprietor, or even as an LLC, and then have the business die when you die. If you're going to expect the business to live on, then you need to build it so that it's not dependent on you, so that you have other people who are doing a variety of things, that they're well versed enough in all the different aspects of running the business, that when you're no longer there, they can continue running. Or, maybe you would set it up to be inherited by your spouse, but still have the management team there. But you just want to think through, what is your exit strategy? Do I want to get bought out? Am I just going to run it until it dies? Am I going to sell it to somebody else and let it continue on as an operating company? But you got to think through all that, because that will then influence perhaps how you run the business on a day-to-day basis, and all the different structures that you put in place to keep it running. So I hope that helps. That was a lot of information. It was much longer than I thought. So McLaughlin, I can't quite read all of that. I'm just wrapping up, so make sure you watch the replay. It'll be posted pretty quickly. So let me do a quick recap. So let's see. So the first thing is identify a problem. So if you're going to start a business, here we got to do it. You got to identify that there is a problem that needs fixing. Then identify how you specifically can help solve that problem. Make sure that you've got the skill sets to be an entrepreneur and you've got the skill sets to actually solve the problem, or can hire people who can do that. Then find out, is there a market? Are there enough people in the world who have this problem that I can make a living and maybe have a living for the employees of the company? Is there enough demand out there for the business to be viable? Then who exactly is my target market? So what are the characteristics of the people that I think need this service? And what mental attitudes do they have? Because that will help you with your marketing. It'll help focus your activities so that you're not spray painting over the entire world. You're talking specifically to a certain group of people about specific problems that they're having and how your service will help them. Then there's managing your money. So you need to make sure that you know where your money, hey, welcome. So I'm just wrapping up, I'm doing a recap. So make sure that you watch the replay, because you'll get a lot more stories and information than what I'm covering right now, because I'm just doing a recap right now. So managing your money, so knowing where your money's going to come from, how many customers do you need, at what dollar points, what price points, over the course of a year or 5 or 10 years, how much am I going to have to invest in the company, or how much I'm going to have to spend every week or every month to keep it going, and just know that. So the thing I said, which I will repeat now, is that Oprah signs all of her checks because she wants to know where her money is going. It's pretty easy for somebody with a lot of money and a lot of staff to lose track of that, but you as the business owner, you want to know where your money's going, where it's coming from, and where it's going. So keep track of that. Then you want to know, like legally, when I'm ready to start the business, what form of business am I going to operate? Sole proprietorship, limited liability company, C Corp, S Corp, what a nonprofit, what kind of company am I going to start? Because there are legal and tax ramifications from all those decisions. So talk to an accountant or an attorney about the differences, because there are both tax implications and also kind of legal implications, and you want to know what they are when you get started, so you start the right firm. You can always change the formation, but you might as well start it off the way that you want, because it's not cheap. It's cheap to start a sole proprietorship because you don't really have to do a heck of a lot legally, other than kind of register in the city and make sure you're doing the right things there. But you want to make sure that you pick kind of the right company so that you don't have to change it later on. Then identify who's on your team. So what different kinds of roles are you going to need, and what kind of people with what skill set will you need to have them run the company well. And then finally, what are your operations? How are you going to make this thing happen? So if you're producing something, what's the production process? If you're delivering a service, how are you going to get that service out to people? So be clear about how you're going to do the business. And think through it, like all the different jobs, what are the responsibilities, what happens, if you're making something, how are you going to get the supplies through the chain or the process that you do to turn out the end product that you do. Hey, welcome, Cameron, I think that is. So I'm just doing a recap. Watch the replay. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm just wrapping up here, but I've given a lot of great information. Thank you for the heart. I appreciate that. So go back and watch the replay. It'll be posted pretty soon. So be clear about your operations, know what jobs need to get done and how you need them done, and then have an exit plan. I skipped over the understand your culture. So know what kind of company you want to be. So do you want to be like the fun, hip, really cool company that's really innovative, or are you going to be the, we've got processes and requirements that we have to do, so you have to do things by the book. Both of them work. Just know, what your company is going to be like. And then have an exit strategy. So know if you're building the business so that you have a lifestyle and you don't really care what happens after you pass away, or you want to leave it for your family, so you've got to set it up so that it's running without you when you decide to retire or when you get sick or pass away, or are you going to have an exit strategy of getting bought by another company? So again, there are things that you would need to do to get the company structured correctly so that somebody's willing to buy it. So just think through all that. Even at this early stage, you still want to think about what your exit strategy is. Okay? So I think that's it. I'll sit here for a couple of minutes. If you have some questions, put them in the chat box. If you I do. I am a business coach, and so if you're interested in talking with me about how I might help you get your business off the ground, because I help people put together marketing strategies, and then I kind of lovingly kick you in the butt as you execute them, so that you actually end up with more clients. So if you're interested in talking with me about that, you would go to tinyurl.com. Talk to Loretta. So if I had some blank paper here, I would draw that for you. So tinyurl.com/talk to Loretta will get you on my calendar, and we'll talk, and it doesn't cost anything for that conversation. And if I think there's a way that I can help you specifically, I'll let you know, and if you decide you want to do it, then we'll go on from there. And if not, no problem. tinyurl.com/talk to Loretta. So I'm making a sign for you. So this is how you get on my calendar. tinyurl.com, talk to Loretta. So if you want to meet with me over the telephone, we do these on the phone, and we'll talk about your ambitions, your goals, your dreams, your challenges, your frustrations. If I get a sense of what I think your path forward would look like, I'll tell you that. And again, if there's a way that I think I can help, then I'll let you know. So great, thank you. Okay. So I think that's it for today's scope. It was kind of a lot of information. Thank you for joining us. Oh gosh, hello there. I just am wrapping up though, because I've been here for probably, an hour, and I think I have a 3 o'clock meeting, so I have to get going. But in any event, watch the replay, because there's lots of all the steps I outlined, probably 12 of them. So thank you for joining. I'm going to call this a scope here. Thank you for being here. Share it with your friends and your followers. And if you'd like to talk to me, here's that link again, tinyurl.com/talk to Loretta. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. Take care.